Hi, today I'm doing a video on how to tolerate retinoid use in winter. A lot of patients have been coming in the last couple of weeks looking a bit dry and sore and a bit cracked, and it just seems a pertinent topic to do now that we're well on our way to Christmas. So retinoids are known to cause some degree of irritation, especially when you start to use them. But generally speaking, with persistent use, they are easier to tolerate over time and your skin becomes acclimatized to using them. But a sudden shift in the environment with lower temperatures and cooler air, which means less humidity, can prove a challenge. So I thought I'd give you some tips to make it easier, because we don't want to lose all those great anti-blemish, anti-aging benefits just because the seasons change. So one of the first things that you can do if you're finding your skin is a little bit drier with use of retinoids after cleansing is to think about how you apply your retinoids. So one tip I've been given to patients a lot is that instead of putting it straight onto cleansed skin, you might think about moisturizing immediately after cleansing and waiting 15 to 20 minutes before applying your retinoid. This will reduce penetration, but should still deliver enough active ingredient to the skin to do its thing. You should also ensure that if you are applying directly after cleansing, skin is completely dry before you do so, because again, if your skin is wet, you will get more product penetrating and this will increase the risk of irritancy. The next thing that you can think about doing is to incorporate niacinamide into your routine. There are clinical studies that show that if you actually pre-treat the skin with niacinamide, it boosts ceramide production, which reduces the incidence of retinoid dermatitis. So that's the irritation and redness that can occur with retinoids, because that's thought to be due to a lack of ceramide production at the initial part of introducing a retinoid. So niacinamide before you use your retinoid can make life easier. My next tip is, if that's still not working for you, to think about lowering the potency of your retinoid. Now, if you're using something on prescription like Retinoid or tretinoin as it's known, you might think about going down to something like Differin or adapalene, which tends to have a greater tolerability. If you're using an over-the-counter product like retinol, it's worth knowing what percentage you're using, and you could try having it or even going down to a third. So if you're on 1% retinol, try 0.3 or 0.5. One of the best over-the-counter retinoids that I like is the Aven product containing retinaldehyde, and it's in a night balm format, which is actually quite soothing. So something like this might enable you to tolerate and keep going with your retinoid where a stronger, punchier product causes too much irritation for regular and diligent use. Finally, if those tips aren't working for you, what I would suggest is to completely stop your retinoid and look at your basics again. Make sure that nothing irritant is happening in your routine, that you're not using anything in your AM program that is making it more difficult to tolerate your retinoids. And I will often stop other ingredients that I think are perhaps less important in someone where they're struggling with their retinoid. So if you're using salicylic acid or benzoyl peroxide in the morning, that might well be lowering your threshold for retinoid use. So pulling back on that in the morning part of your routine can facilitate use at night. So stop everything that is potentially provocative and start again with just your basics and add in one active at a time. And that can be a good way of reintroducing something that actually is okay when you get rid of other extraneous items in your skincare routine. The other thing I would say is that in general, in winter, I would tend to stay away from physical exfoliation. Again, I think this tends to be a less useful way of looking after the skin, and it's certainly not worth using a scrub or a cleansing brush 3 times a week at the expense of using your retinoid. So there you have it, some simple tips to help you tolerate your retinoid better in winter. Hope that was helpful, and bye for now.